Hello, Rick27, and welcome to this pre-release look at Rule the Waves 3, an upcoming naval strategy game developed by Naval Warfare Simulations and being published by Matrix and Slytherin, and will be released on the 18th of May, so not too distant in the future. And luckily for myself, the kind folks over there at Slytherin Matrix have given me a pre-release copy and allowed me to make some fine content for yourself, or I should say some content for your fine selves, which I'm really excited to get around to and to play with this game. So anyone unfamiliar, the previous iterations of the Rule Wave series have all been kind of sold directly through the NWS website, but for this version they have now partnered up with kind of Slytherin Matrix as a publishing house, and so that's now going to be released through the Slytherin Matrix store as well as onto Steam. So hopefully not only do we have a nice new iteration of the game with lots of lovely new features, but we're going to be reaching a wider audience as well, which I'm stoked for, because I've always loved this series. I also thought it's fantastic, and I also thought it was due a wider audience than it perhaps received. Anyway, enough fanboying. Let's talk about the game itself. So the game covers quite a large time period now, so we're going from 1890 all the way through to 1970. So you're looking at that ironclad era right through to the missile age. And within the game, you will control a nation's navy, and you will design and build ships, and then you will fight them in wars. All the best trying to navigate your way around the politicians and their interfering. So for this video, we're going to jump into a new game, and we're going to look at that kind of new early stage. So it's the extension, or the bringing forward of the timeline from 1900, as it was in Rule the Waves 2, to 1980 in Rule the Waves 3. So there are 4 bookmarks we can start with. As mentioned, the very start of the game is 1890, but you can jump slightly further forward in time if you want to get into different periods of the action straight away. But for right now, let's start in 1890. Fairly familiar kind of nation select screen for anyone who's played these titles before. There are 10 playable nations. And in a slight improvement or change from Rule Waves 2, you'll now have 8 AI opponents. So it was only 6 in previous titles. That has been increased. And more than that, they are now going to fight each other, which is something I'm super excited about and was always a bugbear, I think, of previous titles. So what are we going to do? Well, I think let's jump in. Let's have a look at Spain. A fairly challenging start, but let's see if we can't arrest their decline in the late 1890s. So we have got a pretty rubbish economy, a pretty small navy, and a pretty geographically dispersed colonial empire. So, lots of fun challenges for us to be engaged in. We do have a kind of a national characteristic of an undeveloped shipbuilding industry, which means our ships, I think, take 10% longer to build, which is always going to be a constant bugbear as we get through the game, but c'est la vie. So in this game, as I said, our controlled nations, 8 AI nations, which means out of the 10 possible, there's always one which isn't going to be present in any given game. And so for us, it's going to be Russia will be missing, but plenty other people to clash horns with. Let us jump onto I think we're going to go for very large, just give us a few more ships at the start of the game. Let me get my title. Make sure I've spelled that correctly, and I have not, because I don't speak Spanish. There we go, Tiburon, which is essentially Requiem, but in Spanish. I'm doing a very slight nerf to research rate. I've not played around with this too much in the Rule Waves 3 to see how that impacts things. I know certainly in all my Rule Waves 2 games, I tended to nerf it ever so slightly, because I always felt you ended up slightly ahead of history. We will do harsher peace deals, which just means you can get a higher score for claiming territories, which is, again, always fun to go around painting the map, so let's do that. I'll leave aircraft development and I'll nerf this. So the focus on this one is going to be, let's look at the early period, probably 1890 through to maybe, I don't know, 1910, 1920, because then I'd also like to jump to the far end of the game and have a look at the missile stuff as well. But what I'm tempted to do, depending on how it goes, is park Spain after our first look, and once we've finished looking at the future tech with some other country, we maybe come back and we'll run kind of a full playthrough with this. So if I'm going to do that, then I want to kind of nerf the air bases, because otherwise the med gets a little bit crazy, and I'd like the fleets to remain kind of dominant rather than purely an airbase fight, which is maybe not realistic, but it's a naval game, so let's focus on the navy side of things. Okay, let's grab our save game and let's get jumped in. We'll develop ourselves some fleet. So here we have it. Okay, some things to talk about, and I'll probably focus on differences between Rule Waves 2 and Rule Waves 3. So apologies for anyone who's brand new to this, but feel free to ask any questions, queries, and I'll try and cover the pertinent stuff anyway. But really, I want to focus on what's new and different. So we've got all the information here, obviously, about our country, and one of the changes which I'm quite a big fan of, actually, I think makes a lot of sense, is this new shipyard capacity. So the game has always had a maximum dock size, so that's the biggest ship which you can build in your own country. Obviously, you can build overseas if you want. So for us, that's currently 7,000 tons. However, they have also added a total shipyard capacity. So this is, and it's based off your largest dock size. I don't know the exact formula, but it says that also there's a limit to the sheer number of ships you can be building at any one time, as well as their size. So in previous iterations of the game, as long as you had your ships were less than your maximum size, you could build as many as you wanted, which obviously not particularly realistic. So you can see this is our total. This is what we're currently using, and this is what is available. So I do like that addition. That's fine. And then we'll see, we can look at our current fleet. And so if we bring up these Reina Donna Isabella II. So these are all pre-builds. Didn't see the option for us to pre-build our legacy fleet, but that's not a problem. I quite like starting with AI designs because, again, it gives you a little bit of a challenge going forward. And this is the new ship designer screen. So some of this stuff is unchanged. I think last time they have altered the layout, so we've got, I think, more on the one screen, which looks good. But they have done a lot of work in also updating the AI kind of generated ship images, which maybe is not a crucial part of the game, but I think it's going to make things look pretty awesome. So this is the current ironclads that we've got, quite a fair number of them, which is good to see. Rocking a couple of 12-inch turrets, fore and aft, and then we've got a couple of 11-inch secondaries. And what they can do in terms of this new ship designer is, once you have obviously given your actual details of what kind of gun you're using, you can click on whatever era you're in, and that'll change the look of your turrets. I think it's an awesome little feature. Doesn't affect the gameplay, but just for the picture that you're drawing. Perfect. So these are the kind of mainstays. As ever at this age, we're really slow. Our guns are rubbish, and our fire control's absolutely terrible. So I think when we do get the fights, it's going to be lots of shots and not much hitting, but we shall see how we go. But I'm keen to see how they perform anyway. Yes, we've got some 16 inches of belt, although on narrow coverage, coal, and these, 3 vertical triple expander, I think it is. So early propulsion systems, and just flat deck on belt armor. So yeah, early door ships. We don't have, so we've got some heavy cruisers, some lights, and some corvettes. We don't know what destroyers yet. We still need to research that. So a fairly basic navy. In terms of research, so let's just go on. Again, limited areas at the start of the game. As ever, we will bump up our research budget. And for anyone unfamiliar, this is obviously a percentage of your total budget you have. Everything up to 10% is just linear improvement. The more you invest, the more you will research. As you go to 11 and 12%, you start getting diminishing returns on that last couple of percent. But research for the win is generally how I view things. Okay, and then we need to put our priority levels. So, and this will be not new news for anyone who's played this game before, but it's a feature I absolutely love, and we really like to see echoed in other games. And Shadow Empire does something similar-ish, but not quite. But in terms of you don't know exactly what you're researching, which I think is fantastic. So the way this research works is you can prioritize an area. So we can say, hey, we want to focus on guns, but you won't let you know exactly what it is you're researching, nor exactly how long it's going to take. All you can do is you can kind of commit funds to this general area of improvement, and then your research come back and say, hey, we've discovered how to build 9-inch guns or 10-inch guns, or in fact, we've not got larger, but we've improved our 6-inch guns. So, and although there is a general progression and a general year when things are going to be discovered, there's variation around it, which I really like, and I think makes some interesting gameplay. Okay, so what areas do you want to focus on? I would like to focus on ship design because I think we need to get some more classes. I would like fire control, but I would also like machinery because that's going to work in our propulsion systems. As well as turrets. It's wound up far too much on high, but let's try this. Okay. That's my first pass and not really thinking about it. Okay, so we've looked at nation-y stuff. We looked at some ships and what that building looks like. Let's have a look at officers because that is one new thing. So each ship and each division will now be commanded by an officer. So you can see it in the ships and service tab who's being commanded. Obviously, corvettes are excluded here. And then you can get full details of everyone you know about in your officer tab. They each have a rank, they have a name, years in service, how many battles they fought, and then there are 2 unknown elements: their ability, so just how good they are, and their special abilities. So there's some additional traits people can have, for example, gunnery expert. And you don't know about those until you spend time with your officers on active duty and in combat, and so you can see how they perform. So you can't just min-max it ahead of time. Now the ranks, there are 4 ranks in game essentially: Commander, Captain, Rear Admiral and Admiral. So it's a bit of a simplification of a command structure, but it's just to kind of differentiate the levels of command within the game. And I think it's a fairly sensible decision when trying to replicate the naval hierarchy of every nation going. So everyone's kind of aligned to those 4 ranks, although they can have native titles. So you can hear we're currently in the Spanish versions of Capitán de Fragata and Capitán de Navío. No guarantee on pronunciation there. But you can change these if you want to stick it to your English names. And if we come off and then you go, Captain, Commander, so on and so forth. I think I'll keep them in the Spanish for just now. Again, it makes zero difference what language I'm in. That's just a visual thing. So they can, obviously they start auto-assigned to the ships that are built. As you build new ships, you can manually assign officers. You can also, if you don't want to micro it, come into your preferences and you can stick on here, auto-assign officers, and they will just grab the next available person from a list and fire them into any blanks. We'll leave that off for just now, and we'll see how that goes. In terms of realism settings, so there's 3 options, again for anyone unfamiliar. Admiral's mode, where you can only really control your flagship and then give divisional orders. Rear Admiral's mode, where you control any ship within I suppose it's visual range of your flagship, and also divisional orders. And then Captain's mode, where you can command any individual ship that you like at any time. So you have kind of full command over absolutely everything, including when each destroyer should fire its torpedoes. So it is the most powerful mode in terms of player control because you're generally better than the AI and stuff. And so to reflect that, there's a kind of 10% point malice on Rear Admirals and a 20% point malice on Captain's mode for building up your victory score. So what we're going to do is we're going to leave it on Captain's mode, but we're not really going to use it. We're going to predominantly play as if we are Rear Admirals, but allow us the kind of free reign of the Captain's mode to stop AI ships doing silly things. So good examples of that is when you have a very injured ship and you'd like to send it back to port, sometimes the AI will just stick on its max speed and when it's out with your control, or and often can get itself sunk through rupturing bulkheads and other bits of silliness, or your carriers decide to sail off in the wrong direction because you can't give them direct orders. So what we're going to do is we'll have Captain's mode, but we'll only really lean on it if we think there's silly stuff going on. It'll also make it slightly harder because we're getting that victory point deduction without taking full advantage of the Captain's mode skills. Good. Okay, so we've got all that. We've got a few ships under construction as well. Oh, we've got a different one. The Real Familia. Ooh, dual turrets. So we've got 4 12-inch turrets in this one, as well as some casemated secondaries. Local fire control. And slightly less belt. What's your speed? 18 knots. Woo, nippy. Okay, so we've got another ironclad on being built. It's being built in Italy, and our loans are being built in France. Yeah, we're really going to have to invest in our dock size. Let's do that for a start. It's going to cost not much money. It's going to take a long time, and I think it's only going to add 1,000 tons at this stage in the game. We don't have any submarines, which we'll look at later because they are now movable ships on the map. You can specify what sea zone they're working in, so we're not quite as abstract as in previous games, but we'll look into that as we get forward. Yeah, and I think that might be everything we talk about to get things set off. So as Spain, so we have a lovely world map here. We've got our two main holdings in Spain itself, a little bit in the Caribbean, and then a chunk of stuff out in Southeast Asia. So we are going to have to make sure we have ships everywhere defending all these things and meeting our foreign station requirements, which we should do automatically. Yeah, here we go. Some in the Caribbean, some in Southeast Asia. So I think we probably, not that we have the money for it, but we probably want to look into building a few more corvettes or light cruisers to really do our kind of colonial service duties, especially for out in Southeast Asia when they're miles away from anything. Okay. Each turning game's a month, just in case anyone's unfamiliar, and yeah, is a kind of turn-by-turn game, and then you jump into, well, I suppose it is also turn-by-turn battles, but they play a little bit like possible RTS, but we'll talk about it when we get into it. One thing I do want to highlight is this new relations screen, which I'm a big fan of, not just because there's lots of lovely shades of green. So this is obviously shows the matrix, not only what other countries think of you, which is also displayed up here, but it also shows what they think of each other. So you can also read it across the way or up the way. No one's particularly happy or upset with anyone, and you can also show the individual values. So who's the grumpiest at the minute? Well, Austro-Hungary and Italy are a little bit grumpy on a 5. And France and China are also a little bit grumpy on a 5, and so is Japan and America. But until I think it's about 10 is really where you're going to get the trigger for war. And this shows our current national unrest, which is just sitting at 2, which is also fine. Awesome, right, so what's the aim as beyond simply showing off lovely 1890s ironclad ships and attempting to fight with them? What's the aim for this series? Well, I'd like to, let's arrest the decline of the Spanish Empire and look to expand our colonial holdings. So probably not the Mediterranean. We might just sack that off and let other people fight over it, and focus primarily on picking up things Caribbean, Southeast Asia, maybe expand into Africa, those bits and pieces. Yeah, and let's obviously try and take Gibraltar at some point. But that's going to be, so yeah, I think mainly tangling with, France and Britain, those minor naval powers, which I'm sure won't be a headache at all. And we'll probably go and maybe beat up China a little bit for some easier gains early on. So on that, let's go. Should we spy on the French? Let's spy on the French. Let's spy on the Chinese. Put them up to high. Costs a little bit of money. Also more likely to stoke tensions. We may end up in wars against Italy. Not much to gain there. Likewise with Austro-Hungary. Or nor Germany really, apart from maybe stealing a few bits in Africa. But that's about it. Okay, so we've got some ships under construction. They're going to take about 10 months to a year to get things started. Our money's in a bit of a tight spot before then, so let's take everyone who is at home and let's just put them a fair few of them on reserve. Why? You're a corvette. You should not be at home. Let's send you out to the Caribbean. So you can. I've not looked at division stuff. I'll show that in a minute. So we can obviously change around commanders and stuff. We can. You can put pictures in them for the ships. I haven't done that yet. But anyway, I would like to move you to the Caribbean. Where have you gone? You're here. You're going to Caribbean. I'll send you that way. Beautiful. I need to do the exact check of how my tonnage sits against what's required. But I can do that off camera. Where is my division designer? Actually, where is my division designer? I've currently lost it. Oh, hang on 1 minute. Okay, temporary blindness solved. It is this big red button down here. Division editor. So this is, again, another chunky new feature within Rule of Waves 3 where you can group your ships together in divisions. So we can come along and well, who's at home? Well, we've got a chunky number of ironclads. So we say, let's have a new division of our ironclads. Give them a name. Is it just, yeah, that'll do. And then we can say, let's add some ships to it. And let's add make it a whole kind of a line of dreadnoughts. As you get limited there to 5 maximum ships. I think it's 5 for everything bar destroyers, which is 6, I believe. And there you go. And okay, very good, Recon. What's the point of this? Well, what this means is when you actually get into a battle, and the battle designer is generating your setup and your ships, it is more likely, not 100% guaranteed, but more likely to put all these ships together in their division as you've specified here. So it gives you a bit more control over how you control your navies and your ships. And this is quite key for later on when you get different speeds of ships. You can use this division designer to really keep them kind of segregated into their kind of speed categories. So you don't have a division of 4 lovely new fast ships and 1 old slowpoke slowing everyone down. So I think this is great. Well, it's not perfect, because what I really would also like to do is get a ability to kind of link divisions together. I've got some very specific reason for that. Things like when you have AA light cruisers far later on, say, hey, look, their job is just to hang about aircraft carriers and be AA platforms. But then I have other light cruisers, their job's to scout and sink stuff. Which you can do a little bit of that in terms of the role for them. So this is kind of part of my core force, and so if I had a cruiser division, you can set them up as scouting or supporting, or there's a few other bits and pieces you can do. But yeah, we'll see how it goes. I think it's really, really fantastic, but I think there's a little bit further to go for it as well. We need to assign a commander. We don't have anyone of sufficient rank. I wonder if they'll get promoted automatically. Well, let's find out together. And then you see, well, hey, we've got everyone together in one big division. Awesome. Right, I'm about 20 minutes in. I haven't even hit the end turn button once. So let us do almost that. We've got doctrine to worry about. So again, you can tweak around a lot with your ammunition, what you want to carry with you, what you want to use at certain ranges. I don't tend to play around with this too much. I probably will maybe try and tweak it a little bit as we go on. Not going to touch it right now. However, I'm tempted to put on a training priority, but it does cost you quite a lot of money, and we're already in the red. So, do you know what? We'll leave that for now, and maybe we'll pick that up in the future. Okay, so this is obviously a pop-up because we have no commander assigned to that division. So I can get them to say yes and have a commander assigned automatically. So let's try that. And there you go, Capitano di Navio Arauco. I don't know how to pronounce that. But he's promoted to Rear Admiral. But presumably if I went to my officers and yeah, I can just promote everyone like here. So that's how we could have done it manually. Go to officer, right click, promote, away we go. Awesome. Oh. Who doesn't? Because he's been promoted off his ship. Yeah, okay, fill in the gap. Uh-oh. Capitano de Navy de la Camara has shown himself to be of below average ability. So there you go. As we have just progressed and people have had a job for a while, you can see we're starting to get a little bit of information of them. So that's not great. Okay, so these are the standard pop-ups you get about your limited ability to control tension. So a lot of this happens through events which are out with your control, but every now and again you get the ability to influence it slightly in one way or another. So the government is concerned about tensions leading to war, and we have a choice to recommend. We can do international disarmament, which will remove our budget. Don't like that, never like losing budget. We can also reduce global tensions. We can just generically increase our budget and tension across the board, or we can get a peace deal. Not peace deal, an alliance. Now this is interesting. And we could, I'm not against an alliance, per se. Who would I ally with, though? Well, who's my options here? Oh, quite a lot of people. We could have like a Spanish-Italian alliance. Italy's never a particularly strong nation, but that might be a nice little balance for us without being overly powerful. Like if we go Great Britain, Also, that's like having the big boy in the block walk around on your shoulder and scare everyone else away, which maybe is not the direction I want to go. Why don't we, why don't we make friends with Italy? You know, they can have the med, and we can have everything else. Yeah, why not? Sweet, so we are now friends with Italy. Awesome. Okay, let's keep advancing time. Uprising in China, we're going to send a strong force to safeguard our interests. Essentially, these options are tension and prestige. I think that's kind of nothing. I mean, this one is tension down. So again, your slight ability to control what's going on, although nothing's particularly going on, to be honest. Britain's laid down the Majestic class. I wonder if we have any information on these other ships. What do I know about your Majestic class? Here we go. Don't know. We know the Rodney though. We're up to 13-inch turrets, 2 at the front, 1 at the back. Interesting. A colonial crisis with Germany has arisen. Yeah, I mean, I don't really want to pick a fight with Germany because we have nothing to fight over. Actually, what have they got in? They have some stuff in Asia. But the tension's pretty low. We're only at, what's that, about 5? I'm quite okay to ratchet up world tension. Because if nothing else, it gets me more budget. So let's try this. Ooh, fair jump, but we also got a fair jump in budget, which is good. That's what we want to see. Tension in Germany is 7. Oh, tell you what I forgot to do. You're not really in the right sea zone. We could go in other stuff, but I forgot to put my ships on reserve after having created their division. You guys can go into reserve status, so it does take them longer to become useful during the war, or a war I should say. But will save us an absolute chunk on money, which is important. As you can see, the maintenance of this ironclad's 154, so we've halved it just by putting them on reserve status. That's fine and dandy. If we look at our foreign station requirements, come into one of these, it should tell me. Here we go. So this is as this has been changed as well since last year, and I think it has a lot more information in it, and is generally pretty useful, especially things about like blockade strength, who's got ships where, well, the anti-submarine warfare value is, submarines, and importantly, foreign station tonnages. So we need 13,600. No, sorry, we need 12,000. We have 13,650. That's fine, I suppose. And at point, a lot of it must be coming from that Aragon. And you notice the tonnage doesn't align exactly with the ships, because certain ships get benefits to their tonnage as they get glassed on foreign stations, and other ships kind of get malices, and depends if they've been fitted out for colonial service. It's not that simple one-on-one. Actually, we've got 3 heavy cruisers here. That's an expensive way of doing foreign stations. I will look to change that if I can get a bit more money. I'll need to wait for these ones to finish, and then I think we'll go into building some colonial corvettes, because they're nice and cheap to run. Telescopic sights, no bueno. Anything else going on? Okay, bigger gun. Okay, 8-inch range guns for China. That's fine. We can fight those. Night training, okay. Oh, new captain below average. New captain below average. This is somewhat disconcerting. Better armor-piercing weapons. Not really what we're interested in. Tension in the world changing. Apparently we're fine and completely with China, which isn't really what I want. As you see, the tension doesn't always go the way you want it to. Well, let's keep chunking through time. China has proposed a 5-year security arrangement between our nations. Absolutely not. Because 1, you're generally rubbish, and 2, I wouldn't mind going to war with you for money, experience, fun, and maybe even some territories. Awesome. Let's see if we can get things ongoing till we get our first war on the go. Okay, Captain Danilo Torgari. Average, let's see what, he's a speed enthusiast. So that gives, I think, believe it's a benefit to your naval speed, which would make sense from the name. He seems to have overstrained the engines during a high-speed run. He is in for a court of inquiry. So we can get rid of him, or we can spend prestige to keep him around. Prestige is, generally, primarily it's your fail condition. So if it gets low enough, you can get fired, and that's game over. And depending on what you're doing, you can also play to try and maximize your prestige. Given that he is average and everyone seems to be below average, I'm going to keep him on the hook for just keep him on the books for just now, because apparently our officer corps is not the greatest. A spy from Germany. Do I want a war with Germany? I mean, what really are we going to do? Well, why not? If nothing else, we can show off our lovely ships. Sure, budget up, tension up. Maybe we'll go for a quick, short war. I say that. What's the kind of comparative ship sizing on the go? So their budget is much bigger than mine. Their fleet tonnage is a lot less, though. They don't have nearly as many ironclads. They're investing heavy in heavy cruisers, and they've got a lot of light cruisers. Okay. And we're on a par technologically. Okay, we've got a new heavy cruiser, lovely, which should free up a chunk of money. It does. We can. Who have we got left in our officer corps that's not assigned? We've got someone who we know to be average, Montilla. Why don't you, sir, have a command? So we can go over to our Pedro de Aragon, and we can assign a new commander. We can assign. Where are you, my man? We may need to promote him. Congratulations on your promotion for displaying competence. Okay, cool. And now we can go back to our ships in service, and now we should be able to go to our commander. We can assign new commander, and there they are. Perfect, and we know that they are average. Congratulations. Good. After a naval visit by Germany, we're asked what we think about their ships. So again, I think we're just going to annoy these people and kick off a bit of a war. Yep, they're a bunch of rust buckets. Sailors are terrible, and they smell. So we're up to 9. So yeah, very rapidly we see this, because once you're at high tension, you tend to get events which I think poke you over the limit as well. Internal upheaval in Bougainville. We can shoulder the burden and send in a force, or we can, not do intervening overseas. But we're all about colonialism, so let's do that. Oh, and we even got control of Bougainville. Sweet. Is here? Yeah. Well, sweet-ish. We now have, presumably, requirements in South Pacific. Or maybe not. Where's Bougainville? No, it's in the South Pacific. But it doesn't have any foreign station tonnage requirements. Okay, that's quite handy. Must be an absolutely tiny place. Alright, sweet. Well, if we don't need ships there, I won't put ships there. Oh, hello. Apparently taking over Bougainville has rather upset Germany, and I suspect is going to embroil us in war. Just as the new Real Familia is commissioned, and hawkish governments want to raise armament expenditures. Excellent. Tensions all round, please. And there we go. First war, Spain and Germany. This is going to be, I don't know, maybe a bit of a silly one, because we can't really fight them. Although I wouldn't mind, since we're already now in South Pacific, I'd grabbing their 2 little holdings and essentially calling us done with Germany at that point. But more importantly, I think we're going to get to have a look at the actual battle map, play around, see how the divisions work in reality, and see how good our ironclads are. But I think we'll fit that into the next one. So it's first half hour, just quick look of the kind of setup of the map, some of the new features, yeah, what our kind of plan is for this run, and we'll drop the fight into the next video. So I hope you've enjoyed it. If you have any thoughts, questions, things you would like to know or see about the upcoming title, then do pop them in the comments, and I'll happy to address those. Otherwise, I'll catch you in the next one. Cheerio.